I heard that the famously accused diddler of kiddlers, Dr. Disrespect, was planning a comeback and, well, you know.
It sounds like the conversation they had did talk about meeting up.
Basically said that after looking at
career away to see a minor, and that's how you become Dr. Disrespect.
It's probably not going great for him, but at the same time, I was kind of curious if anyone was, like, backing him up throughout this whole thing, and... Oh, well, I'm so happy that famously alleged abuser, manipulator, and self-described great dungeon master Arcadum, I'm so glad he could give his glorious opinion on the situation. What did he have to say? This situation really reminds me of how easily rumors and accusations with no evidence can ruin lives. I mean, I feel like that's a bit hypocritical considering he claims to still have a career without any sort of actual evidence, so, I mean, there's that. I would mock him for sucking the tiny manhood of Dr. Disrespect, but I know that since Arcadum is above the age of consent, there's no way Dr. Disrespect allowed him anywhere near it. I'm a long-time listener, first-time writer. A couple years back, my main circle of friends for more than a decade, 7 including me, were about 12 levels deep in a campaign that had been on the rocks for a while. This was our second campaign together. First was with a different dungeon master, the fighter in this story, and that one was run on a different weeknight, immaculately. It had intrigue, conflict, intense planning, and creative combat. We were really into it, and the jealousy from our new DM was palpable. There had been issues with the past several levels surrounding the DM's ego and willingness to bend the rules to serve only himself, but as a group of genuine best friends, we were willing to let it slide until this session. Long story short, the Dungeon Master had been gearing us up to fight a big bad evil guy from the fighter's backstory, a thug lord that had taken his daughters captive in response to mercenary work done in the fighter's past. The big bad evil guy had already tortured Fighter for several hours and killed Fighter's brother just a couple sessions prior. We had scrounged up what we thought was a suitable bargaining price to avoid combat, but the Dungeon Master seemed pretty ready to rumble, so we got started. For context, the big bad evil guy was in the center of a courtyard, surrounded by a wall topped with archers. Here are the list of the worst offenses. 1. Instead of letting Fighter hold combat with his own big bad evil guy and help save his own children, Dungeon Master began the combat by cutting Fighter's throat and killing him instantly!
May thy knife chip and shatter.
He had to sit out this full, session-length encounter and watch this big bad evil guy's death from the sidelines. Initiative was rolled, and the big bad's first, a surprise to literally no one, action is to reveal that he is a reskinned lich with all the same properties and more hit points. He auto-stunned the rogue, aka me. Admittedly, I did have a high damage output, so it was at least understandable. Rogue then took several arrows and got Finger of Death, and I was down in round 1. I guess the Dungeon Master wanted the fight to be particularly intense and decided to kill both Fighter and Rogue instead of planning a more complex combat. It's the monk's turn. She tries to scale the wall and starts plucking off some archers. Totally normal monk activity at level 12, right? Think again. DM makes the monk roll for it despite the ability being written into her class. She rolls really high, and the DM still says no. This wretched villain thinks his high wall will protect him. I am a monk. I have trained my whole life to scale obstacles such as this. Now, how about you? She then does a pinch of unsatisfying damage, and the turn ends. Our ranger casts an AoE spell, and the DM insists it's out of range to hit most foes. It isn't, but oh well, another unsatisfying turn. The cleric, another past dungeon master, casts Sanctuary on herself. The big bad evil guy tries to counterspell, but it is out of range. We had to argue and measure several times over it. The DM gives in, but is pissed. Okay, now he's up next. The big bad evil guy makes a multi-attack on Barbarian, and Dungeon Master tries to include a pretty brutal spell. Fighter notices and messages DM covertly to remind him that no, multi-attacks do not include spells. They do in Flee Immortal sometimes, but they don't include fire. DM reads the message about the rules correction quietly, but then proclaims as loud as possible, "I don't care what the rules say." The big bad evil guy casts the spell anyway. By the end of a long and exhausting evening, we were all angry. 2 of us were dead, folks were crying, and we were nowhere near the end of the friggin' combat. DM claimed we'd finish the combat next session, and we called it a night. Not only was there no session the following week, but after several long arguments with no budging from the Dungeon Master, he pulled out of the friend group entirely and cut almost all ties. But the story has a happy ending. Cut to a couple years later, and we're now a few levels into our 3rd campaign together, run by our cleric, and couldn't be happier. Lots of complex dungeon design, strict respect to the rules, and thrilling, challenging combat out the wazoo. We even picked up Cleric's brother as another player, and have become a stronger group with each passing week. I actually do think if you have rules in your game, even homebrew ones, you should be adhering to them, especially in a complex combat. There's nothing that feels worse than the feeling of a DM bending the entire fabric of the game just to get you killed. It feels like everything is against you because, in a sense, yeah, it kind of is. The DM is the arbiter of the world, and engaging in hostile DMing practices makes combat just utterly frustrating. Tough combats are fun because they are thrilling, not because they piss you off. Seriously, this is that AI-generated game balance I was complaining about earlier, but on the other end. Usually I'm complaining about players having ridiculously overpowered crap because their DM isn't paying attention, but here the DM is giving himself the ridiculous overpowered crap, which is arguably more annoying. Okay, I'm really losing momentum with my games. I just need something visual to work with, but I don't want to sub to 1,000 Patreons. I wish there was a creator out there who did it all. Tokens, maps, but yeah, that's not possible. Just kidding. It's a reality with CzePeku. This video is sponsored by CzePeku. Yeah, they're back. And you know why they're back? Because they're awesome. You don't need to pay me to talk about how great CzePeku is. I do it all the time anyway. CzePeku's incredible maps have only gotten more insane since the last time I've talked about them. From this incredible celestial tome with beautiful variants, to this amazing roadside ambush that could make for an incredible map for the opening of your D&D campaign. From level 1 to level 20, you're gonna find something to use in your D&D game. And if you don't have an idea for what you're gonna do for your next tabletop session, CzePeku's maps are sure to give you an idea. That's how inspirational they are. But guess what? They're not just making maps now. They're making tokens as well. CzePeku tokens have opened up on their website. Each token having tons of variants, and you get 20 plus tokens every month starting at just the $4 tier. You can pre-subscribe for CzePeku tokens right now on their website and subscribe to their Patreon for their incredible maps starting at just the $1 tier. If you guys are interested, then you can head down into the description down below where you can pick up CzePeku's maps on their Patreon starting at just the $1 tier, as well as a link to CzePeku's website where you can pre-subscribe to CzePeku's brand new tokens. As always, supporting our sponsors does support us. Thank you so much to CzePeku for sponsoring this week's videos. And without further ado, I'm going to turn back into an animated rat so we can get back to the video. Most of the Dungeons & Dragons that my boyfriend and I play is online, thanks to an absolutely lovely group I found on the LFG D&D Reddit. I know, hard to believe, but I love the people I play with currently, and we have been playing together for roughly 8 months now. Dang, 8 months. Everyone, bow before our absolute monarch, for they have found an 8-month group through LFG! Seriously, even outside of D&D, my best LFG experiences don't last that long. But this story, unfortunately, isn't about that group. Rather, it's because my boyfriend and I dared to want to play D&D in real life. One of our local bars posted on Instagram that they were hosting a D&D one-shot thing. You pay $20 to cover the cost for the space, plus DM fees, and you can enjoy a small discount for drinks while you play. It seemed like a fun idea. It's a great deal. You get drink discounts too? Darn. Hey, I'm not an alcoholic. Quit that! Yeah, we bought tickets to this, to say the least. I read into it a little bit more, and basically the Dungeon Master would be providing pre-made characters that we could just pick from, and have us play a one-shot that was meant to be finished in 2 to 3 hours. I thought, why not? This seemed like a good chance for me to play a class I hadn't tried before, so I was very excited. Cut to the day of the one-shot, and my boyfriend and I show up to the bar and are directed to a table in the corner where a small group has already claimed seats and was looking over our character sheets. The Dungeon Master was sitting at the head of the table introducing himself and told us to go over character sheets and that we were free to pick any character in class that hasn't been already picked. Besides boyfriend and I, there were 2 other guys at the table, and soon after we sat down, another 2 guys sat down as well, for a total of 6. This is when the Dungeon Master tells us that this is the group that we'll be playing today, and asks us to introduce ourselves with pronouns and asks how much experience we had, mainly so that he can know who to give extra help and attention to. Here's the cast. For clarity's sake, I'll just refer to them as the class that we picked, although majority of the horror story has nothing to do with even selecting the characters. The Dungeon Master, he, him, pretty chill guy who has been a forever DM for the past 5 years now. Boyfriend, he, him, playing a druid. Me, she, her, playing a monk. Fighter, he, him, a newbie to the game, pretty chill guy too. Bard, he, him, had played in campaigns before, but nothing long term and just wanted to have fun. Rogue, he, him, has DM before and has been playing for about 2 years. Sorcerer, he, him, new to the game, but watches Critical Role, Dimension 20, and other actual play YouTubers, and is the problem player. Found the Tiberius fan! Oh, great. Wait. I liked Tiberius back in the day. Crap. It's like I said, most of the horror has nothing to do with character selection, as by the time we got to the table, it was just Fighter who has claimed this character. For context, the character sheets had already been filled out with class, subclass, and race, with weapons and spells too. Spaces were left for the character name, description, alignment, and stuff. We spend the next 5 minutes or so in silence, reading character sheets, and I'm going over the Warlock sheet when I hear a cough cough from across the table. The Sorcerer says, here's the Cleric sheet if you want to look at it. Oh, thanks, but I already play a Cleric, so I wanted to try something new. Oh, of course you do. What? In every game I play, Destiny, WoW, D&D, everyone always talks crap about the healer. Until they actually need one, then they never stop whining about needing a healer! Stop complaining about your clerics, you fools! Sorcerer goes back to whatever he was looking at, and I just shrug and decide to keep minding my own business. More exchanging of sheets happen, and the next one to choose a character ends up being the Rogue. I once again hear a cough cough, and this time Sorcerer is looking at Rogue. Tiefling Rogue, yeah. Yeah, I've always found rogues pretty cool. Never play as one, though. Maybe you should ask her if she wants to play a tiefling. And looks at me. And I say, that's fine. I wasn't really thinking about rogue. He can play what he wants. Are you sure you don't want to play a tiefling? Not really. Like I said, everyone can play what they want to. And he already picked the rogue. It's fair game. At this point, I also have a small inkling of what's going on, but no one acts like that in public. And in front of total strangers, right? Right? Dude, have you seen those alpha male street interviews? People absolutely act like this in public. Like, a lot, actually. We continue with character creation, and my boyfriend picks Druid. I'm half expecting Sorcerer to pipe up with, oh, Elven Druid, does she want to play that? But he's actually silent, probably because my boyfriend is kind of quiet and doesn't make an announcement when he chooses his character. But now I'm stuck between a rock gnome wizard and a half-elven monk, both of which I'm considering playing. And when I decide on the monk, the wizard puts the sheet back down the table, and I hear the infamous cough cough. Monks aren't casters, you know. And now I'm a little annoyed. Dude, now? Hey, DM, I'm thinking of playing... Do you need do you need Kleenex? No, I just... Okay, cool. DM, I was thinking of... I was thinking of... You missed! Ha! Fool! Idiot! Stupid! Now I can lecture you appropriately on the proper racial and sexual demographic of your character and how it should match yours. And also, I actually do have a really bad sore throat. Can someone get... I'm surprised you aren't picking a more magic-based class, considering that you're a girl. My mouth just hung open. I think everyone at the table was just staring at him at this point. Finally, the Dungeon Master decides to speak up. You know, when you bought the ticket, you had to agree to the terms and conditions that you would be respectful to everyone at the table. Oh, but I am being respectful. I'm just trying to make sure that she gets to play the character she really wants to play. It sounds like you're trying to make her play a character you think she should play. But if you have anything more rude or unwarranted in terms of opinions, I'm gonna have to kick you. No refunds. What happened next is incredible, and I am amazed at how quickly it escalates from here. Sorcerer basically throws a hissy fit at the whole no refunds thing and spews more sexist nonsense about how I always get what I want because I'm a girl, which of course results in the DM going, "That's it, you're done." And when he tries to take the sorcerer's sheet back away from him, it turns into a tug of war. Tug of war with paper? Come on, it's not that strong. Holy shit! This, of course, attracts the attention of the nearby bartender who comes over to help de-escalate while the rest of the players are just watching in horror. Sorcerer is now throwing a full-on tantrum, accusing the DM of just wanting to get into my feminine, female good graces. Ugh, don't you hate it when simps are always falling for women's feminine wiles by showing basic decency? Ew! He finally leaves once the bartender says they're going to have to call the police if he doesn't leave, and finally, he leaves, huffing and puffing. The table's all quiet, and another player speaks up. So, I think I'm gonna play Bard. The table just laughs, tension is broken, and after the DM and boyfriend make sure I'm okay, the one-shot continues. I don't really know how to end the story, but we ended up completing the one-shot and we all exchanged Discord info, so now we have more people we can tap to play D&D with someday. Both boyfriend and I are awkward and non-confrontational. For anyone who's wondering why my boyfriend didn't stand up for me more, it's just one of those situations where you never know how you're going to act unless you're just in the sitch. Thanks for reading this, Crispy. I hope you have a lovely day. This is a perfect example of why it is so important to have someone at the table who can handle and confront this kind of conflict. The DM was not trying to fight the sorcerer, okay? That's not what you need. That's just escalation in a way that's unnecessary. However, the moment the sorcerer started escalating himself, the DM made a reasonable decision and told him to hit the road. There's a great video called What It's Like Being a Girl Gamer that just is a woman on a mic in Valorant, of course, and just tons and tons of toxic nonsense. And it's easy to believe like, oh, those are just freaks, or oh, those guys are just comfortable on the mic. But the truth is, there's a lot of really insecure dweebs out there. How do you think Andrew Tate got so rich? These people do exist. You might encounter them someday, and that means you gotta be ready to put your foot down and get rid of them. Look, the couple moments of unpleasantness with confronting a guy like this is way worth it for saving you all the hours to months to years of unpleasantness if you gotta keep him around. First off, thank you so much for reading my story out previously and with a skit featuring a katana. You're welcome, by the way. Thank you for submitting it. I heard your "no, not the children," and it reminded me of a very short what the heck story that happened to me as a player. The cast was pretty much the druid, the problem player, and everyone else, since I don't recall the fine details of the story, nor are they really that relevant. Druid only stuck around for 2 sessions. We weren't given the exact reason as to why she never showed up again, but I strongly suspect it was due to the stunt she pulled at our last session. Basically, we were all ready to start a new adventuring day, when roughly 1 hour into the game, Druid suddenly stops everyone to tell us she needed to take care of something, so she was going to let her 9-year-old son take her place for the rest of the session. In a game of nothing but adults with absolutely no warning or consent from the rest of the players, nor from the dungeon master. What kind of mother is like, "Hey, little Timmy, go play games with these fully grown adults that you don't know"? What could possibly go wrong? I mean, okay, let me make this clear. I'm sure this group is awesome and not terrible people, but like, you understand the risk, right? Seems a little irresponsible. The kid was just dumped in front of us before we could say no. It was done via voice chat, so we had no way of stopping her from walking out without an explanation. But he sounded really excited to play our game, even though he had zero knowledge of the rules to setting or even how to read his mom's character sheet. None of us had the heart to punish him for Druid's actions, nor did we want to discourage this brand new, eager player from learning our hobby, so we toned down the game and tried our best to teach him how to play and make him feel like a valuable member of the team. But we absolutely refused to let him join the later sessions though, because the campaign's tone was not child-friendly, nor are we friggin' babysitters. That's where the story just kind of ends. no satisfying ending nor any form of satisfying vengeful closure, since I honestly just never heard from the druid ever again. How she believed that this was a good idea to begin with, I have absolutely no clue. Hey honey, just checking on the babysitter for little Timmy. Oh, hey honey, don't worry, I've got it all under control. Oh, great. Yes, I have found the perfect source of babysitting. Honey, what's with the evil laughing? Nothing! Again, thank you so much for reading my other story, and sorry for taking forever to express my happiness. Best of wishes. Best of wishes to you too. Yeah, not everything needs a satisfying close. This is the definition of a minor horror story, but still, one that isn't great. Look, your D&D group are not babysitters. I'm glad that this was at least over some kind of voice call, though I will say keeping your kid occupied with a voice call as babysitting is also not exactly an ideal strategy. I mean, what if he just walks away and steals all the cookies or burns down your house? I don't know what kids do. I'm glad these people at least didn't freak out the kid, though. That's really important. Look, this kid is not doing anything wrong. He is not responsible for the actions of his mother. And while, again, you are not babysitters, you are not obligated to be babysitters, I'm glad that you at least took this in stride and did your best in this situation. Good on you. In one campaign, there was a new couple to the store, recently moved to the area. A bit of an age gap between them. Male, 35, female, 19? A bit? That age gap is older than Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition! They ended up in separate games, with the husband joining our table as our game master made a space so they could join in. It was a setup where the world is being corrupted, and our efforts were trying to slow down the effects, or trying to create setbacks before the final battle against evil. So the Dungeon Master repeatedly had us in dangerous situations, and even NPCs we had grown attached to were being taken by the darkness. So this player joins and picked a hunter. He joins when the campaign was first scouting the possible location of the enemy's base in the bad guy's territory. Imagine a party essentially approaching the gates of Mordor from Lord of the Rings, escorting our wise and powerful mentor, who we might as well call just Gandalf. The Dungeon Master is setting up a moment we learn about how terrifying the enemy is. You know, you shall not pass moments, where our Gandalf sacrificed himself to save us. So while exploring, the hunter pretty much wants to not be involved with fighting the darkness at all, which is just not a great fit for the party's theme, specifying he stays away at maximum range at all times. Like, during a troll attack, he was firing at disadvantage, while my rogue was just getting absolutely battered. I am a warrior of this land, and I will ensure to fight for its freedom until my dying breath! But from back here... Sorry, what did you say? I just want to maintain a safe distance. I can't quite... Oh! That doesn't sound... Do you need help? He was quickly earning some bad rep as a player with the party and his antics, which led to the horror moment and the final straw. We ended up at a cabin in the woods with a family there. There was something going on, and there is a secret, and we needed to learn it from this family. As a party, we were trying to earn some goodwill with them and gain their trust. There was a bit of caginess, but it was proceeding like a difficult social encounter would. Hunter, again, was not wanting to work with the party. He stuck to the edges. There was a DM statement about the little girl in the family knowing something of the secret while she was peeking from behind her mother's skirts. The hunter decided this might be a good way to get the information. He started using some honey cakes to lure out this girl into the woods. Man in white van with free candy style on the side. Oh, so that's why Wizards of the Coast isn't buffing Rangers. They saw this guy and wanted to nerf him as soon as possible. The Ranger class killed my family! Or at least tried to! Honestly, I see this as a reasonable explanation and an effective strategy. He was giving such attention to the details of how he was going to lure this girl out into a remote area. It was very surreal and spoken as if he was giving this very real thought, far beyond what you would expect for such play. The DM had the little girl share her information, but he seemed to continue with interacting with her, growing our unease. The cleric player next to me finally spoke up and said, "Calm down, Jimmy Savile," which kind of broke the tension in the atmosphere. We laughed and made jokes to diffuse the situation, and this allowed us to snap back from what we were watching. But the hunter was not amused. The DM had the mother realize her daughter was missing, get hysterical, and we as the party helped her out. We get to the girl, and Hunter and mother goes, "What are you doing here with my child?" We expected some kind of apology, or at least an excuse from the hunter. We take the rep hit, he shares his information he gathered, except he doesn't do any of that. Hunter just goes deathly quiet and just walks away from the party, not even replying to the mother or any of us asking questions. Right to remain silent style, as if an imaginary lawyer was giving him legal advice. His actions were coming off as weird in character, and his IRL body language was too. We obviously asked him and prompted him to do something, but he just didn't respond, as if not seeing the point, then started playing on his phone. Cleric expressed his own discomfort with jokes, referencing Hunter's character like a nonce in the situation, and how this was very sketchy. Shortly after, Hunter's wife came to the table, saying she had a headache, and he left with her. Given that he was on his phone, we guess he got uncomfortable with the situation and used her to bail out, and we did make a joke about that. I mean, yeah, guys, come on, be sensitive. Don't you understand how horrible it is when your D&D group makes fun of you for creeping on kids?
Just to suffer.
We did feel some guilt about chasing the player away, but we were all collectively like, what the heck about the experience, and given he had soured us to him with this in-game antic prior to the incident by being a very poor team player, it was not a very big loss for us, and the campaign continued. Hunter never showed up at the shop again after this, though his wife did return to her table. She left a month or so after, and it was around another month after that when our DM was chatting with the other table's DM about both the players. That was when we discovered she made a friend on that table, and they got to speaking. One thing led to another, and the person at the other table found some personal messages and information about them. DM, after this conversation, sent a link to our Facebook Messenger group and suggested we check it out. The link was about Hunter in a newspaper article, which was also online, and its coverage is about a city from the other side of the country. TLDR, we discovered he was... trying to strike a chord, and it's probably a minor. He had relocated across the country to escape his past. As you can imagine, with the age difference, it also turned out that his wife was one of those he met within his role and married when she got older. Obviously, the cleric's first response to this was, "I called it, I knew it, it just wasn't right what he was doing." And yeah, it all made perfect sense in hindsight. We were all really uncomfortable with his play in that scene. It was very sickening, realizing afterwards that he knew what he was about to do, luring that little girl into the woods, and his actions around that because he likely had real-life practical experience. Also, his response to being called out was actually advice he had previously received from his solicitor as well. Sick. Guys, this has happened twice on this channel now, and it's making me sad. This is what I say all the time. Horror stories are usually pretty mild things, but the truth is, you're playing with other human beings, and especially when you play with random human beings, you're gonna get random human beings. And guess what? Some people are going to be randomly the worst people you've ever met. It might happen. Non-0% chance. We all have horror stories. Maybe not specifically in D&D, but just in life. Hell, I have stories like this. Not in D&D, again, but just in general. It's not unbelievable that might leak into your hobbies. Look, I don't want to make you overly paranoid about your tabletop games. That's a quick road to never playing any games in the first place. Hell, some really negative experiences have led me to barely playing multiplayer video games anymore, and I don't like that. Don't let toxic fools and creepy creeps scare you away from doing what you love. That lets them win. Hey, that's something I gotta remind myself of sometimes too. Hey, that's a wrap. If you guys enjoyed, you might enjoy the tale of how somebody tried to seduce one of my friends with hypnosis. It's linked in the cards if you want a real-life example of how creepy some dweebs can truly be. But before you go, please leave a like on this one if you enjoyed, and subscribe to Crispy's Tavern so you don't miss any of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, you can go down in the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment trying to strike a chord to let me know you made it to the end of the video. Hey, by the way, if you have your own horror stories, you can send them directly to us. There's an email down in the description down below. Send your stories our way for a chance to be featured in one of these videos. But hey, even if you don't have any stories, in essence, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell. The sore throat thing wasn't even a joke. Oh my god, this is actually so painful to record with. This sucks.